It is not enough to succeed. Others must fail.
Intros are extremely important. And I'm not only talking about television shows here, but in almost every single medium. You can see that on the very platform you're watching this video on. Look at all the YouTubers that have trailers at the start of their videos, and all the others begging you to like, subscribe, and click a bell before they even tell you anything substantial. The intro serves as a way to draw the viewer in with something that will set up not only the story, but usually the tone of the piece altogether. If your intro is too long, too boring, or plain bad, what's to say anyone will keep watching? And don't get me wrong, if you've established yourself, you don't need a great intro to keep people hooked. They know you're good for it. And that's why it's all the more crazy how consistently great Billy and Mandy's intros are. Billy and Mandy is a balls-to-the-wall, crazy show that revels in the chaos it creates to craft some really interesting situations and plots. But I already talked a bit about that in the last Billy and Mandy video I did. In my opinion, intros are especially important in shows like Billy and Mandy because you never know what to expect from an episode. Even a person who watches a lot of Billy and Mandy wouldn't know what to expect from an episode they knew nothing about. And that's where the intro comes in. If the intro is the window to a work, then an intro for Billy and Mandy is like a speeding bullet train to a fantasy world. It engrosses you and you can't help but stick around and see what happens. Billy and Mandy really took introductory scenes to another level, and to demonstrate that, I'm gonna look at intros of 3 episodes that I consider some of the best in the entire Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy catalog: Chocolate Sailors, Secret Snake Club, and Fear and Loathing in Innsville. Let's start with Chocolate Sailors because that is my personal favorite. This intro shows off the absolute craziness that can kick off with the beginning of an episode. There's no lead up to the chaos, it's 0 to 100. Here we start off at the flea market with Billy sifting through piles of junk to find a shrunken head. The owner of the pile has an abnormally small head, which Billy kinda makes fun of, and after he jokes about how broke he is, literally gets kicked into space, and lands all the way back down next to Grim, who's selling supernatural comics that eat people. He goes on to lecture Billy on the value of money, afterwards giving him a free comic. As Billy reads through the comic book, he stumbles across a weird ad that offers money for selling chocolate. With Grim's lecture in mind, he signs up and drives us toward the rest of the episode. This intro is chock full of visual gags and body humor that really sets the stage for the episode. The desensitized to violence scene is repetitive and scales up the destruction in a funny way, which is replicated a couple times with the package scene and when Billy eats his hand. And speaking of Billy eating his hand, they toy with the idea of odd body morphs with a super buff guy with a small head. Pair that with the man-eating comics and you really shouldn't be surprised at all when Billy turns into chocolate and starts eating himself. I love this intro not only because it's funny, but it gives hints to how the episode will play out while using jokes that aren't even close to being reused in the rest of the episode. Other than that, what else is there to say other than, wow, that guy's head is really small. Next up is Secret Snake Club, which hands down has the best song break. The intro of this episode excelled at character interactions and setting up multiple situations. This one started off with a club fair, where the jokes fly fast as they do whatever they want with all the different clubs. Billy, Mandy, and Irwin decide which clubs they want to join finally, a few seasons into the show. Irwin joins the macrame club so that he can pick up chicks. Billy gets kidnapped by the junior CIA because he knows too much about delicious refreshments. And Mandy stumbles upon the Secret Snake Club and eventually decides to join it, setting the plot underway. I said it before, but I greatly enjoy all the jokes derived from the different clubs. It adds variety to the episode and really fleshes out the show. The alpaca farmer's joke was my favorite, and with a 22-minute runtime, there's plenty of room for bits like this. The show recognizes that Billy's fantasy is dragged on a bit too long. It stands out to me because it is a great primer for how awkward the secret snakes are going to be. They're nerds and they do not relent. There's a lot of uncomfortable silence and some questionable decisions from the snakes, all reflected in the Billy chick scene. In addition to this, Mandy's blatant disrespect for the Secret Snake Club members really gives you an idea of what they're like. They're extremely desperate for members, and right off the bat, you know what kind of laughs you'll be getting when they're involved. Mostly the cringe kind. And finally, we have Fear and Loathing in Innsville, which is a good example of setting up a character that's a little different from what we've come to know and love. This episode is especially known for the Angry Woman song and the whole scrape and lick spiel, but the intro is funny solely for how pathetic Grim is. I will concede that Grim is usually pretty pathetic, what with being a modern-day slave to 2 children, But in this episode, he's more pathetic in a different way, which is apparent very quickly. It begins with Grimm excitedly making skull-shaped peanut butter and blood cookies for his idol Dracula, because there's no one else he respects more. He heads out, but not before he tells Billy and Mandy about it, but they don't care. In fact, no one cares. Not even Dracula, who trashes the cookies before he tries them. Which leads to a funny scene where Grimm effectively guilt trips him into trying one. That gets the ball rolling on the plot, and Dracula then invites Grimm to go with him to get brunch. While this intro was not as fast-paced and concise, it succeeds in serving as a humorous parallel to how the rest of the episode plays out. Grimm tries to please Dracula, Dracula acts as Dracula does, Grimm starts crying, only for Dracula to begrudgingly do something nice. It also helps that the show doesn't really treat the viewers like kids. We don't need a reacclimation to Dracula's character. Even if you didn't see him in Home of the Ancients first, you understand his character and the whole Dracula-Grimm dynamic very quickly without the episode droning on about it. And if you don't remember or understand him, oh well, this episode is moving on anyway. You might be thinking that other shows do this too, but this is a character that showed up in like 1.5 episodes prior to this. So it's not like he's heavily established in Billy and Mandy mythos. And before we go, I have to point out the fourth wall break where the TV announcer describes evil Con Carne and says, quote, "Surely someone's watched it. I guess not." Funny. So there you have it, a quick study of intros and how Billy and Mandy mastered them. Do you agree with me? Are these not the best episodes in your opinion? Let me know in the comments below. I love to read them. And for more videos like this, subscribe to Stunt Club Soda and keep coming back for those uploads.